Are billionaires setting us up to see a new form of slavery? Space slavery? Or perhaps something that looks like indentured space servitude? Or a return to feudalism, but this time among the stars? What would that actually look like for the average person living on Mars or in an orbital colony? Imagine a company town, but in space. Your employer owns your habitat, controls your life support, provides your food, and dictates your work. Your ability to communicate with Earth, or even move freely within the settlement, could be restricted. Your debt to the company for your passage and upkeep could be astronomical, making it impossible to leave. Essentially, your entire existence would be at the whim of your corporate lord, with no independent legal system to appeal to. And that's why this conversation isn't just theoretical. It's about ensuring that our expansion into space becomes a step forward for humanity, not a step backwards into a system of control and exploitation. Even if you find the vision of space exploration inspiring, the ethical and legal groundwork is just as crucial as the technological advancements that make it possible. We need to examine the ambitions behind this push to colonize space, because behind the language of innovation and exploration lies a much older story. When we look at history, colonialism, slavery, and feudalism, the same questions arise. Who truly benefits from new frontiers? Are these grand visions we're being sold actually concealing a future where people are stripped of their rights, transformed into essentially space slaves or indentured space workers? When Elon Musk dreams of sending people to Mars, and Jeff Bezos predicts millions of people living in space by 2045, they're talking about creating entirely new societies off-world. But these visions come with something missing. Laws. No labor protections, no constitutions, no human rights frameworks. And when law is absent, power fills the vacuum, especially when that power belongs to billionaires. Elon Musk has floated a ticket price to Mars of around $200,000, sometimes less, sometimes up to $500,000. Oh, and a free ride home. Let's take this higher figure. 100 people paying $500,000 each brings in $50 million. But each Starship mission to Mars could cost hundreds of millions to over $1 billion, depending on how many refueling launches are required and what each one actually costs. That is a massive gap. So ask yourself, how will Musk make these flights profitable if he can't even cover the cost of getting you there through ticket sales? And that's just the flight, not the housing, life support, or infrastructure on Mars. Look, if ticket sales can't cover the costs, then labor will. So again, imagine that your air, water, food, shelter are all owned by one corporation. On Earth, you can quit your job, or you could sue, you could appeal to labor tribunals, or appeal to human rights treaties. But in space, there are none. That dependency, without oversight, becomes exploitation. And exploitation, when it has no legal limits, becomes slavery. People are going to incur massive debts for their passage, debts they'll have to work off under conditions dictated entirely by the company. Their ability to return to Earth or even move around in the settlements or communicate to Earth could be controlled. Without legal recourse, people will be trapped. Their livelihood, and even their survival, will hinge on the whims of their overseers. Let's have a little reality check here. Billionaires care about profits, not about people. Now Musk and Bezos and others see a chance to create a society from scratch, one where the workforce is completely beholden to them. No inconvenience of regulations or worker protections or unions that took centuries to win on Earth. When Bezos talks about millions of people in space, he's not describing a small research outpost. He's describing a civilization. If these new societies are designed and controlled by private corporations, they'll replicate feudal systems, rigid hierarchies where those at the top own everything and everyone else depends on them to live. That's not progress. That's just regression polished in chrome and rocket fuel. So what is the solution? Well, we need legal and ethical frameworks now, not after the rocket's launch. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 calls space the province of all mankind, but it says nothing about the rights of individuals in private settlements. History teaches us that law always lags behind technology. And if we wait, the power structures will already be built, owned by the few and unaccountable to anyone. It's now a race against time to define human rights beyond Earth, before those rights are written out of the future entirely. National governments must ensure that citizens' rights follow them off-world. But space is a global commons, so that demands international cooperation. We need treaties that define labor standards, dispute resolution mechanisms, and the establishment of basic human rights for anyone living in space regardless of nationality. And that means building new institutions, maybe even a UN-style body for space governance with real power to sanction companies that exploit or abuse workers. Because the alternative is a free-for-all. And again, history shows us that when new frontiers open without rules, the vulnerable suffer and the powerful prosper. Change won't come from the billionaires. It has to come from us. If people start now to discuss the risks and ethical dilemmas of space colonization, then we can start to demand accountability from companies and from governments alike. It's not just about top-down regulation. It's about bottom-up pressure. Consumer choice, public outcry, and ethical investment can force corporations to change if we make enough noise. We can design these future societies intentionally and build them on equity, equality, and freedom, or we can let them evolve into systems of control by default. Even if the billionaires mean well, they're not talking about human rights. And when immense capital meets a frontier without governance, power writes its own rules. And once such a system takes root, it won't be easy to dismantle. Future generations could be born into dependency, never knowing freedom at all. And that's not science fiction. So if you found this message interesting and important, share this video. Start conversations. Post your questions on social media. Who protects workers in space? What laws prevent space slavery? Ask your elected representatives what they're doing to ensure human rights follow humanity off-world. We're not just building rockets, after all. These guys want to build the future of civilization. And the question that nobody seems to be asking is, will that future be free? The decisions we make now could echo across generations. So let's make sure humanity doesn't escape Earth, only to rebuild its oldest chains among the stars.